All right, for today's video lesson, we're going to go over topic 8.4, and these are circle graphs, okay? So circle graphs are generally used to show data or statistics, and it is a graph that represents data using sections of a circle. We briefly introduced circle graphs when we were doing the Skittles probability experiment, right? So this should not be completely new to you guys. All right, so let's get into it. So circle graphs are useful because they're going to show how categories compare to the total sample. Okay, circle graphs are divided into categories or sections. Each sector represents a category and represents a specific region of the whole. Okay, the area of a sector is the same percent of the section of the circle. And circle graphs are easier to use when there are only a few categories. If there are too many sectors, it's going to make the graph difficult to read. Okay, so circle graphs are pretty useful for us. Okay, it's a really nice, concise way to represent the results of a sampling experiment. Okay, so let's get into it. So interpreting circle graphs. So the following circle graph shows the types of pets of the 24 students in Mr. Wong's class. Okay, so the title of the circle graph is Pets of Students in Mr. Wong's class. Okay, what are the different categories represented by the graph? Well, we have cat, we have no pet, we have other, and we also have a dog. Okay, so these are the four sections or the four categories on this graph. Now the next question, we're going to get into a little bit of analyzing. So what percent of the class has a dog for a pet? Okay, so dog is this region right here. Okay, and from the graph we can tell that 25% of the class has a dog. Okay, now next part of this is how many students have a dog. Okay, so we know that there are 24 students in total. Okay, so 25% of 24 students have a dog. Okay, so to find the number of students, we need to convert our percentage to a decimal. Okay, so to do that, you can either divide by 100. Okay, or you can move the decimal places 2 spots to the left. Okay, so now that it's here, our number is 0.25. Okay, and we're going to multiply that by the number of students. Okay, so 0.25 times 24 students gives us a number of 6. So 6 students of the 24 have a dog. Okay, so the next question is pretty similar to question 3. What percent of the class has a cat for a pet? So that is over here. And from that we can tell that 33% of 24 students do. So same thing, we're going to convert that the percentage to a decimal. So 33% as a decimal is 0.33. Multiplied by 24 will give us 8 students who have a cat. All right, so last couple questions. So number 5, what percent of the circle is represented by all the sectors? So note that there is no, there's nothing missing. If we add these up, 25 plus 25 plus 33 plus 17 is equal to 100%, right? And this should make sense, right? Because of all of the people that were sampled, all of those responses are included in this circle graph. So we should expect on circle graphs that every category will add up to 100%. Okay, would this circle graph make sense if the title or the sector labels were missing? No, it would not, right? Because we don't know what section means what. So without labels, we don't know what is going on in the graph. So a title and labels are very important. Just like when you guys are making an X and a Y graph on a Cartesian plane. All right. So example 2, again, we're reading and interpreting circle graphs. So the circle graph shows how Omar spends a regular weekday. So what activity does Omar spend the most time on during a 24-hour day? And how many hours does he spend on this activity? Okay, so if we analyze the circle graph and we're trying to find the most time or the most popular thing, we're going to look for the biggest section. Okay, the biggest section in this particular circle graph is sleeping. Okay, so Omar sleeps 35% of the day, which has 24 hours in it. Okay, so sleeping is his number 1 activity. I feel like a few of us can relate to Omar. Okay, and we know that he spends 35% of a 24-hour day on that. So just like we did in the last couple examples, we need to change the 35% to a decimal. So again, you can either divide by 100 or move that decimal place 2 spots to the left. So 35% as a decimal is 0.35 multiplied by 24 gives us a value of 8.4 hours. Okay, so Omar typically spends 8.5 hours sleeping per night. Okay, this is good. Especially you guys in your developing brains, you guys need to get over 8 hours of sleep. Okay, so next part of this question, how many hours does Omar spend at school, and how many hours does he spend doing homework? Okay, so we'll do school in green. So we know that Omar spends 30% of a 24-hour day at school. So to find how many hours that is, let's turn our 30% into a decimal. So that is 0.30 multiplied by those 24 hours. And that gives us a value of 7.2 hours at school. Okay, now let's see how much time Omar does doing homework. And let's see if that's comparable to how much time you guys spend on homework. Okay, so homework takes up 10% of his day, so 10% of 24 hours. And again, to find in hours, we need to turn 10% into a decimal, so 0.10 multiplied by 24 gives us a value of 2.4 hours. and he spends 2.4 hours doing homework. So, you guys tell me. You guys always complain and say that I give you too much homework, but I don't think I give you 2.4 hours of homework per night, okay? Okay, last part of this question. It is asking what percent of Omar's day is spent eating. Okay, so that is this little region over here. Maybe that is the best part of Omar's day, even though it only takes up the smallest amount. Now, notice that we are not given the percentage at which Omar spends eating, right? But remember, with this being a circle graph, all categories must add up to 100. Okay, so if we know 4 of the 5 categories, we can calculate the proportion of that last category. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to take our 100% and subtract the value of the other 4 categories. So 100 minus 35, minus 30, minus 20, minus 10. Okay, so that equals 5. 5 what? This tells us that he spends 5% of his day eating. Okay, this question is not asked how many hours is spent eating. So again, make sure you guys are reading the question and answering what it is actually asking for. Okay, so that is it for circle graph topic. And again, we have done creating circle graphs back when we did our skill probability lab. So we are going to skip topic 8.5. Which means that on Thursday, you guys will have a chapter 8 take-home quiz or a quiz on the Google Classroom. Okay, but until tomorrow, for the remainder of today's period, I would like you to work on your textbook, page 290 to 291, questions 3 to 7. Okay, yeah, those questions are very similar to the ones that we went over today. So make sure you are able to solve those types of problems. And if you're stuck, watch the video again. And then if you're still stuck, please reach out and ask for help. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.